America needs to do something very fast, actually a handful of things. And I want to talk about that today because you are being absolutely lied to if you think that we are in the uphill glide or the uphill sort of motion in the economy. That is absolutely not true. I see business owners all around that I talk to sort of lying to themselves because it's like smoke and hopium. They're hoping for the best, but they're not preparing for the worst. And in not doing so, you're going to probably lose your business or a significant chunk of it. There's a handful of things we could do. Now, this video is going to be inspired. As a matter of fact, if you're a business owner, type 1 down below. I'm just curious. And I'd love to, if you type next to the 1, what type of business you're in. I'm very curious. Service-based, product-based, what type of business? I was speaking at a baseball game with a CEO of a large construction company in the area where I live. Engineering license. They've got a handful of employees, 25 employees, but it's a sub. They do a lot of subbing. So they do a lot of large work, a lot of commercial work. And I started asking him about the economy, and he goes, oh, it's great. Commercial industry is great. And I'm all, well, the only reason the commercial industry is great right now, that side, is because of private equity. And he agreed. I said, that could be pulled at any second because of a downturn in the stock market and or people putting less money in pensions, because most people don't realize that private equity is gaining a lot of money from pensions. That's very scary. Very scary. So my point being is that I started asking him questions. Have you set up an SOP or some policies and procedures what happens if your business is cut in half, meaning you lose half of your income in the period of 90 days? He goes, no, I never thought about it. I said, what if you have you split up in construction? I own a construction business, and just so you guys know a little background, I knew about the .com ahead of time. I knew about the real estate crash ahead of time. Both times I took my side hustles and I scaled them back and was prepared for that and took advantage of it afterwards. Okay, started studying different economic cycles, Shemitah cycles, things like that. And so I was really blessed. My businesses actually blew up. My income exploded, right? And I see this time and time again when these 7-year cycles hit. Even 2015, there was a minor cycle that hit that most people don't realize. And a lot of construction companies were put out of business. But it's not just construction, right? But we'll use construction as an example. So I said, hey, what have you taken your equipment and set it into another entity and then lease it to your primary construction company? He goes, we do that. I'm like, all right, cool. And I started getting a breakdown of what his company does. He started talking about divisions. And I said, you're talking about divisions, but are you referring to separate entities, or is this all inside the parent company? He said the parent company. Like, all right, there's a problem there. When you get to a certain size, you need to start splitting up your company into different entities and treating them as separate entities. Now, this works whether you're a plumber, a carpenter, you have a construction company, or you sell products. You may want to put a new product in its own entity. This is when the guy blowing the leaves comes by. It's funny. Let's use that as an example. A landscape company, it's a big company. You may have a mowing division, you may have a blowing division, and I'm going to explain why you'd want to do that. Because the blowing guys could mess up the ninjas videos. Hey, sorry, he's like, hey, what's this dude talking into his phone for? Anyway, my point being is, I wonder if I should move. He's just blowing around the car. Anyway, my point being is that you want to start splitting these up for a couple different reasons. In a real estate or a stock market downturn, it's going to have heavy weighing down on businesses all around America. Okay. Also, what we're having right now that's going to be weighing heavily, it already is these tariff wars, right? But they have to happen. We've got to bring manufacturing back to America, bring good jobs back to America. And hey, we are the hub of efficiency or innovation, I believe, still around the world. It starts here, right? The problem is it starts as an idea here and it's been farmed off in other countries. We got to bring all that back. Type 2 if you agree with that. Type 3 if you're like, no, I love buying stuff from different countries that are not paying their people enough to survive. I mean, it's true. There's some people that just want to do that, just want to shop at Walmart all the time. Okay, so when you separate your businesses entities, you now are able to do two things. You're able to move money to different entities if one starts to tank during a crash, whether it being knowingly or unknowingly to C-suite execs. And this works for small businesses, medium, and large businesses. You're able to save multiple streams of revenue in your company because they've been separated, right? If someone sued one of your companies, they've only sued one of your companies. They can't prove that all of them sued. Okay, that's one thing. But the second thing is, private equity is taking over the world, and I don't like it at all. I don't agree with it, but it is the case. Why not prepare to sell one of your companies? Wouldn't that be nice if you took one section of your business and you're able to flip it, sell it for an incredible multiplier, and then take that money and dive it into other companies? I think that'd be amazing, right? But it does that too. Another thing, I asked the gentleman that owns the large construction company, I said, are you doing yearly audit? Now, because he did say, he goes, hey, I've got a parent company and I've got a bunch of different entities below. And I like talking tax strategy, entity creation, all that kind of stuff. I'm a weirdo. And I said, hey, are you doing a once a year audit with your team to go and make sure that there is no slippage in the funds that get paid between business to business? And he goes, no. I'm all, what about any kind of leaks or gaps in the paperwork, the documentation, where the parent company owns this company, but if there is any other kind of documentation, like on a contract that names the parent company instead of, as an accident, somebody that working for you making the documents, the contracts, accidentally put the parent company name in a contract instead of the subsidiary? He goes, no. And I'm like, do you know that if anyone got sued, a lawyer can run right through that entity and up to the parent company? He said, no, I didn't think about that. I'm like, once a year audits are good. And it blows, it could take massive problems, turn them into no problems at all if you can get ahead of them. Another thing I said is, have you been coached? He said, what are you talking about? I said, I've got a friend that owns a company. And so pretty soon, this is what my vision is. I want to build a campus, or I'm going to probably buy a commercial building here in Nevada. And I want to have a classroom where, I know it sounds crazy. I'm gonna teach people how to be rich. I'm gonna teach business owners how to 5x, 10x their income by coaching, right? And I want to have people fly in from all over the country or all over the world. They come to the classroom. It's gonna be a really nice classroom because I like to teach, and I get my best work is when I'm being asked questions, right? It's very hard to talk live and just come up with stuff. And I said, my friend owns a company that coaches, and he goes, what he's finding is, like, let's say you're in construction and you're making $100,000 a year. Can you imagine what it'd be like if you paid for a contractor that makes $1 million a year in revenue? I'm just throwing out round numbers, okay? Or maybe you're making $1 million and you're being coached by a guy that's making 10 or 20 million a year. How easy it is to solve problems like that. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you so much for the super chat. It's just insane how fast you learn. Well, at the same time, the coaches, what we're finding, my buddy's company's finding, is the coaches are not only making the same or more being a coach than what they do in their personal life or, in their business life. But what they're finding too is it's inspiring the coaches, because if they don't have the answer, they go find the answer, and then it affects their business in a positive way. So you see, these three things that business owners need to do right now is consider writing a policy now while things are good. That's the hardest thing. I'll give you an example from the Bible. Have you guys ever, type yes or no, have you heard of the story of when Pharaoh had a dream and he needed it interpreted? And so he went to, there was a slave at the time, I believe it was Joseph, and he interpreted the dream. And it was a weird dream. It said, hey, you're going to have 7 years of plenty, right? And then you're going to have 7 years of famine. There's a lot more to it, but that's pretty much the gist of the dream, right? And so he's like, you need to store up grain during those hard times. And it's really hard for anyone to take that in and go, no, things are good. Cognitive bias or normalcy bias. Hey, this is what's going on now. Everything's great. Everything's been great for the last 3 years, 5 years. Everything's going to be good forever. That's what they think. But it took a measure of faith, a huge measure of faith to start to store grain. And so what they started to do is they started to store grain during the good times. And then when the bad times came, not only did they have enough to feed all their people, they had an excess to be able to sell. Well, that's what you need to do now. You need to write that policy on what happens if my business was to fall 50% in a matter of 90 days. You got to lay off this person, you got to do, these are the hard decisions you got to make, right? But do it while times are good. Number two, you've got to sit there and you got to look at splitting up your company, prepare it for sale, and don't prepare it for sale as a whole entity. If you're a product company, you may want to spin off one product into a new business. But then you have the ability, different bank accounts to be able to loan between the two companies. That's cool. But really to protect money in case of a lawsuit or a downturn in the industry. The third thing is making sure that you are, I totally forgot what it was. See, that's what happens when you're live. And I'll tell you what also inspired this video. You know, the other night, here, crap, I'm using that phone for, my friend Ralph texted me. Now, Ralph is I'm using the cell phone that the text is on, so I'd read it to you. Ralph is an incredibly successful businessman. He actually owns a huge YouTube channel with like 1.5 million subs. And he goes, I just watched, now I'm not trying to sell a course on this video, but he goes, I just watched, and I've known him for years, okay? And there's a lot to this story, but he goes, I just watched one of your Q&A sessions with your master group, because I got a real estate one and a crypto one, right? He goes, oh my gosh, I was blown away. I'm paraphrasing. This is the old ninja. This is what we need. You were on fire. You need to take those Q&As and clip them up and put them in shorts. Like, you guys know that I don't do any editing or any of that stuff. But what it is that information's being pulled out of me by people that have the intent to learn, which is huge, right? And that's why it's important for you as a business owner. You also need to be going to and engaging with other business owners that will stretch you first, then ones that you can help. Because if you don't help anyone, you can never expect to be stretched and helped by other people. All right. Like right now, there is a very wealthy man in this country, a very well-known wealthy man that is helping me in ways that are just blowing my mind. There's going to be a book about it. I have a feeling one of these days, and it's finally happening because of all the years that I've helped, right? So you got to do those two things, but also you need to be asked questions. The best comes out of you. But the thing is most of us are shells, and we get nervous or scared, and then we're insecure. And come on. I got insecurity. The ninjas got insecurity. Did you know that? Cool. Type 10 if you've got insecurity too. I'd be typing 10 like, screw it. I'll get on YouTube right now. No, I won't. I got a second phone. You know you're something big when you got a second phone. But my point being is that, we all deal with this stuff. And if we could break through this, then what happens is we can grow. All right. So I hope that, now let me ask you this lastly, because I'm going to know past the live stream if people are commenting down below. Would you be interested as a business owner in being coached? And what type of business are you in? Or would you be interested in being a coach? Could you put that in the comment section? Because me and my friend are going to look at this, because he's already helped a ton of businesses and has just incredible stories. And I've watched his process, and he's got a school, and I want to build a new school. Because this is what I used to do in the fire service too. I taught thousands of firefighters, and I wanted to, they would come from, not thousands, but probably close to 1,000, let's say. For over the years, they would come from all over the country. And here's someone. Alexis, stop sending me big super chats. Come on, you stop. I don't need the money, and the platform takes like half anyway. But yeah, she's gonna come. She's flying all the way to Nevada, and she's a financial advisor. She's going to interview me. You've probably seen her channel because I mentioned it. I don't remember the name. Sorry, Alexis. But I'm live. But yeah, she's going to interview me, and she's going to pull some really cool stuff out. It'll be a really good example. But if you're interested in being coached or being a coach, or you're interested in learning techniques on how to prepare for downturns in your business, can you do me a favor and just put it in the comments? I want to read it and see I want to catch the pulse of what the audience, you guys are thinking, my incredible subscribers, and thanks again for subscribing, just hitting the thumbs up and helping me out, because you know me, I want to get to 1 million subscribers with just a cell phone and no editing. And that's just me. So, all right, with that being said, the Economic Ninja is out.